Well, hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Tonight on the program, we turn our attention to the renewed call for more troop deployment to Kirawa and Wulgo communities in parts of Borno State, areas still under the shadow of Boko Haram attacks. The call was made by Hon Jaha Usman, the member representing Damboa, Gwoza and Gwoza, and Chibok Federal Constituency, in a motion before the House of Representatives, which is now scaled second reading. He's pushing for stronger military presence to protect residents repeatedly targeted by insurgents. His motion comes at a time where Nigeria faces worsening insecurity from insurgents, bandits, and other armed groups displacing thousands across the northern part of the country. Well, tonight we'll speak with the honorable member about his 2 cents on what the core of the problem is regarding deployment and what it says about the management of the current insecurity. But first, here's a recap of the day's latest developments in politics.
The Senate has called for the establishment of a permanent military base in Kwara South to tackle growing security challenges in the area. Lawmakers also summoned the Minister of Defense, the Chief of Army Staff, and the Inspector General of Police to appear before the Senate and explain the federal government's coordinated response to insecurity in Kwara and other affected regions. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has called for a transparent and independent investigation into the academic and professional records of all serving members of President Bola Tinubu's cabinet. In a statement on Wednesday, Atiku said the move is necessary to address the global embarrassment caused by recent certificate scandals involving top government officials. He described the controversy as evidence of a deep moral crisis within the administration, warning that portraying resignations as voluntary only masks deeper credibility issues. The World Bank says Nigeria's plan to achieve single-digit inflation soon is unrealistic, keeping the country among African nations battling high consumer prices. In its latest Africa's Pulse report released Tuesday, the bank projected that Nigeria, along with Angola, Ethiopia, Ghana, Malawi, Sudan, Zambia, Sao Tome and Principe, and Zimbabwe will continue to record double-digit inflation through 2025. It noted that while 37 of Africa's 47 economies are expected to achieve single-digit inflation by 2026, Nigeria will not make the list due to persistent structural challenges, currency depreciation, high food and energy costs, and supply bottlenecks. The Federal High Court in Abuja on Wednesday adjourned the trial of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu to October 16, pending the submission of his medical examination report by the Nigeria Medical Association. Justice James Omotosho postponed the hearing after the NMA failed to complete and present its assessment of Kanu's health condition as ordered by the court. The medical evaluation was directed by the court to independently verify Kanu's health status amid ongoing detention.
Shafi Suleiman there with a recap of the day's latest developments in the polity. Let's segue back into our conversation of the evening. The renewed attacks by Boko Haram in parts of Borno State, which has caused quite the concern within and outside of the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. The conversations in the National Assembly have re-echoed concerns raised by stakeholders, residents directly or indirectly affected by the resurgence of some of these attacks that has not only killed thousands of people but has also exacerbated the humanitarian crisis in different parts of the region. Well, let's bring in our guest, Hon Jaha Usman, who is the voice behind the latest push, because his constituency is directly impacted by last week's event. Honorable, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Good to have you this evening.
Thank you.
Help us contextualize what is happening in your federal constituency.
So, to the best of my knowledge, what is happening in my constituency is what I normally call a resurgence of Boko Haram insurgents in different parts of my constituency, particularly the border area of my constituency. As you are aware, my constituency is sharing boundary with Cameroon Republic, and my immediate neighboring constituency is equally sharing boundary with Cameroon Republic as well as Chad Republic. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell, there has been a series of resurgence in this part of constituency, especially Kirawa, Gulugo, Banki, Dara Jamal. All these are communities that witness in one way or the other attack of Boko Haram in the few days we recorded.
And in terms of an understanding of what we're dealing with here, you did talk about how it's a resurgence, but how volatile is the situation?
Seriously volatile. I don't know how to even describe it, because the last one that happened was in Kirawa, when the whole community was sacked and the whole community was burnt to ashes. All the structures, both government and individual structures, have been reduced to rubble, some of them reduced to ashes, to the extent that they burned an excavator and a lobet that was in Kirawa to excavate trenches where the military men can take cover. So in fact, the whole communities of Kirawa had to be deserted, and the whole members of that particular community are currently, as I'm speaking to you, taking refuge in some parts of Cameroon, if not because of the intervention of our amiable governor, one of the most hardworking governor in the country, Professor Engineer Babagana Marazulu, who cut his trip to Niger Republic short in order to go to Kirawa and give people support so that they can be resilient to all these kind of attacks.
And in your motion to the House earlier in the day, you did talk about how Boko Haram is taking responsibility for the recent attack, and these are not just attacks on the communities alone.
Yes.
It's also attacks on military formations.
Yes.
Help us understand what you have learned so far about the formations that have been attacked, and how that attack in itself has given the insurgents something that looks like an upper hand.
Yes, for the attack on military formations, that of Kirawa, it was not an attack on military formation, because the military were not there. The multinational joint task force have withdrawn their men in Kirawa. In other words, there is no military presence in Kirawa, which what actually necessitated the movement of that particular motion, calling on the Nigerian military to immediately redeploy troops back to Kirawa in order to save boundary community of Kirawa. But in some communities like Dara Jamal, military base was attacked, and the community itself was equally attacked. The series of several number of casualties were recorded, and the same thing applies to Banki, when Banki was attacked, and other neighboring communities. And the last one, which is the recent one that happened in my constituency, is an ambush laid along Damboa Gwoza road, where it claimed like 5 or 4 lives of Nigerian military, who went there in the morning to clear mines so that people can go to their farms. So the boys laid them and a very dangerous ambush, and killed 4 soldiers with rocket launcher.
And you talk about the security situation as far as deployment is concerned. You talk about how Kirawa, for instance, had no military presence for quite some time now.
Yes.
Explain what, to your understanding, is the reason why that is. Because as a frontline community, one on the border areas, it does look like a reasonable conclusion that there should be some sort of military presence there.
I don't know what is happening, because what is happening in my area is somehow unbelievable. You can see there is a thin line between Nigeria and Cameroon boundary. In other words, there is a thin line between Nigeria and Cameroon. On the Cameroonian side, people are doing their normal business, people are doing their wedding ceremonies and other things. On the part of Nigeria, there is nobody. It's Boko Haram that is taking charge. One. And another thing, I don't know what actually informed the decision of multinational joint task force to withdraw their troops in Kirawa. Because all this while Kirawa have not been attacked since when the governor returned people to Kirawa and settled them accordingly based on his policy of resettlement. And unfortunately or fortunately, Kirawa has never been attacked by the insurgents until when the military decided to withdraw and leave Kirawa open. So members of the civilian joint task force, I don't think they have the power and the equipment to face Boko Haram insurgents. So they took advantage of that situation and attacked Kirawa community.
And you did mention the multinational joint task force several times in your motion earlier in the day.
Yes.
What is your opinion about how optimal they have been in terms of providing the necessary security, especially in these volatile communities?
In the past, they have been trying their best to secure the boundary. You see, if we are going to get it right, Nigeria should cultivate the habit of protecting our boundaries so that they cannot be porous for proliferation of small arms and light weapons. And Cameroon boundary, Chad Republican boundary, as well as that of Niger, porous border, we all know. So presence of the military there can in one way or the other deter the terrorists from flowing into the country, that is Nigeria, to cause havoc, and at the same time it will curtail the problem of small arms and light weapons proliferation. So if Nigerians can be wise enough, there is a need for us to invest so much in providing enough security in the border communities than even in the country, because if the border is secured, there is no way small arms and light weapons can come into the country, and there is no way criminals that are not Nigerians by origin can come in and be causing havoc. Because if you look at statistically, out of every 10 terrorists arrested, you have more than 60% of them that are foreigners. This is to tell you this war is not only done by Nigerian citizens. We have a lot of foreigners in it, and they came in not because of anything, but simply because of the porous nature of our boundaries.
Do you think it's easy for them to cross into this country?
Very easy. Very easy, because our boundary is not secured. That is the truth.
And is that, in your view, the difference between the effectiveness of the multinational joint task force across the border, across Cameroon, Niger, and Chad, compared to the effectiveness in Nigeria?
Yes, if the multinational joint task force will be strengthened and all the attention needed is granted, I know definitely they are going to secure the border, because this is a joint forces of different countries under ECOWAS and AU, and a lot of even the Chad Basin Development area. This, if I can put it this way, a formation that comprises of about 4 or 5 countries along the Lake Chad region to protect that particular boundary. So if they are strengthened and they are supported to do the job, I know definitely they will deliver.
You re-echoed the concerns and the alarms raised by Governor Zulum over the past couple of months. I mean, since early this year, he has had cause to publicly decry the response from the Nigerian armed forces regarding some of the issues that you're raising today.
Yes.
Give me a sense of what you think is happening when some of these concerns are being raised. You are a federal lawmaker, and you do have access to some of the people in the command, right? Give me an understanding of what kind of communication is happening at the highest level. If a governor can actually lament the situation, what does that say about how the seriousness of the situation is being communicated?
Yes, you see, to be fair to the military formations in my constituency, particularly that of Gwoza, General Abdullahi is one of the finest soldiers I have ever seen in my whole life, because since when he came to Gwoza, things have changed, and there is some significant improvement in the security situation in Gwoza until recently, which I believe is as a result of lack of enough manpower and equipment and some logistics support. Even though I've not discussed with him directly, but I had the privilege of discussing with some of the soldiers that are in the field, which I don't want to mention to their names. They lamented issue of lack of enough logistics as well as men to do the job, because the war is coming from different angles, especially these days that we are recording some series of resurgence by Boko Haram insurgents. So, and the same thing, the brigade commander in Chibok, despite the large nature and the vast nature of his area, is doing his best, and to the best of my knowledge, he has employed some technology to track criminals across Chibok and its environs. The same thing, the brigade commander in Damboa, General Musa Uba, is one of the finest soldiers I have ever seen in my life too, because he has succeeded in making Damboa Maiduguri road journey seamless and without any fear. As I'm speaking to you, people ply take the road, I think about 4 times or 5 times every week, with the exception of Sunday, I think, and Friday. That's the only time they don't use that particular road, which is a significant improvement. But in some parts of Borno, especially in Gulumba, if you can recall, a lot of people were killed in one night simply because the security presence there is very fragile and they don't have the capacity to face these boys. So I think there is a need for us to do something about deployment of men and the resources in order to fight this war.
And when you talk about deployment, give me a sense of what is needed. Are we talking about a military base? What is it that you think your constituents require? I mean, we're not just talking about one local government, yes, or a handful of communities. Yes, we're talking about a whole federal constituency.
Yes, yes.
And each one, yes, with some unique security challenges.
Yes. So if at all I can recommend the deployment of at least a battalion is in Kirawa at the moment, because if Kirawa is secured with a battalion and Ngoshe is going to be protected, Ashigashia people can come back to their homes and Pulka is going to be protected. But if Kirawa is not safe, so people in Ngoshe may not be safe, likewise people in Pulka are not going to be safe. And by the time you take out or you sack these 3 or 4 communities I have mentioned, so definitely you are going to overrun Gwoza, which we are not praying for that to happen. But my concern is let there be at least a battalion in Kirawa to protect that particular road. And another thing, it may interest you to know that Kirawa road is an international boundary, it's an international border that business activities used to flow in that particular on that particular road. So if that particular road is safe, people can have at least 1 or 2 economic activities to embark on in order to survive. So as I'm speaking to you now, there is no security in Kirawa. In fact, the only security that is present in Kirawa is the forest guard and some members of the civilian JTF, about 300 or 350 people taken by the governor. He equipped them, he gave them all the logistics, the food, everything they need for them to protect.
Do they have the armament they need?
To some extent, if I can put it this way, to some extent they use some dent guns and any other rifle that is allowed by law for the civilian JTF to use. This is exactly what they are doing. And the last time I discussed with the governor was telling me that the military is equally planning to send some soldiers to support the forest guards as well as the members of the civilian JTF in order to protect Kirawa. So if Kirawa is not protected, Gara Jamal is not going to be protected.
So Kirawa is essentially front line.
It's a front line. It's a front. I told you it's a thin line. There is a thin line between Kirawa and Kamaru Republic. So if Kirawa is not protected, all other communities around that area, Gara Jamal, which is from the west, Bangoshe from the east, Pulka from the south, is not going to be protected because Kirawa is very strategically located, and the terrorists insist in sacking Kirawa because they want to continue with their economic activities they have been doing when they were completely under the occupation of Boko Haram.
I mean, your analysis and assessment paints a bleak picture of the situation on the ground.
Yes.
Talk to me about the nature of the humanitarian cost here, the human cost of this insecurity, of these attacks.
It's actually unquantifiable. As I'm speaking to you, substantial people of Kirawa were hitherto in the Kamaru Republic. About 30% were living in Nigeria when the governor, in his own magnanimity and effort, decided to resettle these people to their ancestral home by bringing those that are from Cameroon to come back home after he has renovated their houses and provided all the infrastructure required for them to survive. He equally took those living in Maiduguri and some part of Nigeria to go back to their ancestral home. People have settled down. In fact, I visited the constituency in December. I visited the village in December, where I distributed some empowerment materials. People were happy that they have already settled down now. The Boko Haram is almost over. So before you realize what is happening, there was a withdrawal of the multinational joint task force in Kirawa, and the Boko Haram took advantage of that and came in and sacked the whole community. So people had to run to Kamaru Republic to save their lives. So the following day, when everything was burnt in Kirawa, they had to come back and take the pieces of their life and move back to Cameroon Republic. So as they were doing that, the governor was compelled to cut down or to cut short his stay in the Niger Republic and come back and go to Kirawa straight to give people support and to advise people to be resilient.
And at this point, looking at all that the state government has done over the past couple of years with its RRR initiative, something the governor is all too familiar with as a former commissioner in charge of rehabilitation, reconstruction and relocation, and all of the efforts. Is that the best course of action? Because, I mean, you look at it in hindsight, you relocate people after investing a lot in infrastructure because you have the sense that the security forces have gotten an upper hand, some level of stability has been recorded, and then some months down the line, we're back to square one again. I mean, what are your people telling you about any plans to take them back home? What are they telling you about whether they want to come back from Cameroon back to their own villages?
People are resilient in the sense that people are trying to defy all forms of threat by the insurgents. So there is no amount of money that can be spent in order to resist Boko Haram threats that can be seen as something. Let me tell you, if it means the governor reconstructing a community 10 times and Boko Haram will continue to sack that particular community, it's better we do it this way than for us to leave the community under the control of Boko Haram. That is one. And another thing, the most important thing is the military should understand that it's taxpayers' money that is used to reconstruct all these communities. It's taxpayers' money that is used to relocate all these people, and it's equally taxpayers' money that has been used in order to make sure that that particular place is safe. So the military should not, at whatever level of influence, withdraw their people, because their presence in that particular community is enough to stop the insurgents from coming to attack the community. But as soon as they left that particular place, or they have succeeded in deploying only few personnel to man that particular community, definitely the insurgents can come and overrun them as they normally do in other communities.
And what is your understanding of how stretched our military forces are when it comes to the fight against Boko Haram?
Seriously stretched. As I'm speaking to you, that is the one fact that we have to accept is we are completely under. We have less personnel to do the work, and even logistically, we have a lot of challenges. I'm a member of House of Reps, and I'm a member of appropriation committee. I know when last money was released for the Nigerian army, particularly the capital component of their budget. So if I will say it here, a lot of people will be disappointed.
Right. I mean, in a nutshell, we get the gist,
yes.
right? But is your call for more troops deployment?
Yes.
A temporary measure? Because it does sound to me like you want them to be there permanently.
Yes. Yes, I want them to be there permanent until when peace is restored and Boko Haram is completely eliminated. Because the primary responsibility of every government, as provided in our constitution, is the provision of security and welfare of its citizens. So if they can be there for donkey years, in as much as that particular community is safe, that is the purpose of government. So government should not feel as if they are doing favor to people.
And in all this conversation, we have not heard you mention the police.
Yes.
Are they not in your equation as far as the solution?
Police can only work effectively if the place is secured. Yes, you have to secure the place by the use of military and other agents of coercion before bringing in police to do the civil authorities.
In our political rundown, you did hear that story that we talked about with the Senate resolving to demand for a military deployment in Kwara, and this had to do with recent attacks over the past couple of weeks that has got everybody talking around national security. Right? Give me an understanding of the kind of conversation you are having with your fellow colleagues about the state of the nation's security challenges.
I have been emphasizing on the need for Nigeria to bring back the mercenaries to help us in doing the war. I don't think it's something embarrassing for us to do that, because Russia is one of the giant military in the world, but they still have and use mercenaries to fight their war. So for me, I still insist, let us look at the option of bringing in mercenaries to help our existing military.
You don't think it compromises our security architecture?
It is not going to compromise anything. If Russia can deploy and engage mercenaries, or Ukraine can deploy and engage mercenaries, there is nothing wrong if Nigeria can do that. These people are not going to work alone. They are going to work side by side with our military men in order to clear this issue of insecurity we have in the country. So for me, there is nothing wrong in bringing
the ends justifies the means.
Yes, the ends justify the means, no matter how much you are going to spend. President Jonathan Goodluck attempted bringing mercenaries. They were about to clear Boko Haram until when they were drive out of Nigeria. So I want government to at least think of bringing in mercenaries to help our existing military.
You don't think it's a compromise that is too great, that sends the wrong message about the confidence or lack of confidence the government has in the Nigerian armed forces?
When you are talking of war, there is nothing like compromise. If we can finish the war, why can't we finish it in 14 years? Boko Haram started in 2009 and this is 2025. If we can finish it, we would have finished it before now. 14 years, you are on the same thing. Why can't you go for other options? Because a clear indication of lunacy is where you keep on doing one thing and yielding the same result. Why can't you think out of the box? Maybe by bringing in mercenaries, as I'm suggesting, is going to provide solution to it. I hope you understand. But we kept on doing something for 14 years and we are still in it, and the thing is getting worse. This thing started in Maiduguri alone in 2009. I was a State House of Assembly member. The thing expanded to the 27 local governments of the state. Before you realize what is happening, the whole of Northeast was under attack by Boko Haram insurgents. Then when Boko Haram was relieved to some extent in the Northeast, they moved to the south, to the northwest and the north central. I don't know whether you realize that. So a clear indication of lunacy is where you keep on doing something and yielding the same result.
Well, recently, the former Chief of Defense Staff launched a book that is reflective of his experience and what we're currently dealing with right now. And he questioned the political will of the administration when it comes to fighting insecurity or banditry and any other form of insecurity that the country entirely has been dealing with. And some of his former colleagues, retired generals, have re-echoed the same thing, and they've talked about one particular approach, a state of emergency. Do you think that is a step in the right direction? Do you think another state of emergency is needed? Remember, we've done this before in Borno State, at least in 3 states in the northeast back in 2013 under the Goodluck administration.
Yes.
Do you think there is a need for a national emergency when it comes to insecurity?
For me, I cannot say there is a need for national emergency because, as said by our former head of state, General Abacha, that any insurgency or terrorism that lasts longer than 48 hours, government is involved. So to the best of my knowledge, nothing is beyond government's capacity to handle. That is the truth. But the most important thing is let us look for other options on how to fight this thing, because we have been doing the same thing for the past 14 years and we are still having issues. As I'm speaking to you, a typical military man or security man can tell you that they have neutralized Boko Haram and they have recovered all the local governments, with the exception of maybe one. But for me, in my own analysis, what they have recovered is not up to 30% of the total local governments we have. Because if you can recover only local government headquarters, like for instance now in Damboa, I have 10 political wards. Only one political ward is accessible. That is only one out of 10 is accessible. This shows one local government, in that particular local government is only one political ward that is safe for people. And even in that particular one ward, nobody can venture 5 kilometers away from that particular local government headquarters without being in the hand of Boko Haram. So the same thing applies to some local governments.
The victory is superficial, it's symbolic, it's not absolute.
For me, it's symbolic because my community now, for the past 14 years, I couldn't go to my own ancestral home. For the past 14 years.
You've been cut off?
Yeah, we've been cut off completely. Right. As I'm speaking to you now, my political ward is completely under the occupation of Boko Haram. In my local government, we have 13 wards, 13 political wards. My own ward, Chikilejo de Kuhum, is completely under the occupation of Boko Haram. Kurana Basan Washe Sama, completely under the occupation of Boko Haram. Gavaaga Palawa ward, completely under the occupation of Boko Haram. Ashigashia, completely under the occupation of Boko Haram. Even the Kirawa is only Kirawa Central that is safe for now. But other satellite units around Kirawa area is still under the occupation of Boko Haram. If you come to Pulka, it's only Pulka area that is under the occupation, that is safe. But all other communities like Boko, Kugile, Boko, Wija, and other communities around Pulka, they are not accessible. They are still under the occupation of Boko Haram. Wala Warave Dure is only Warave that is not under the occupation of Boko Haram as I'm speaking to you. If you go to Isge Bita, it's only Isge that is not under the occupation of Boko Haram, but all other satellite communities are still under the occupation of Boko Haram. So if you observe, by the time you do a thorough analysis, you realize that substantial part of the local government per se is still under the occupation of Boko Haram.
Does it frustrate you that this version of the story is not the one that is in the mainstream conversation? Because from the outside looking in,
yes,
Nigerians have fed this story that we're winning the war against Boko Haram. Save for when we get this once in a while headlines of the attacks on certain communities.
I'm not saying we are not winning, but what I'm saying is the rate at which we are winning is that we will have 2 or 3 steps forward and have 10 steps backward. I hope you understand. If a location is going to be recovered by a military, and after some time that particular community is going to be sacked again by the insurgents, and it's going to take Nigeria a very long period of time for them to resettle these people back. This shows that we'll do 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward, or 2 steps forward and 5 steps backward. This is where our problem is. So for me, I think there is a need for us to change a strategy.
And just on a political and personal note for you, how are you able to, represent your people under these, rather unprecedented nature? Because I reckon some of your colleagues are not dealing with the situation that you're dealing with on a daily basis.
You see, to be fair to my constituents, I asked for this job, and I have no reason to complain because I asked for it. But to be fair to me, I have nothing like job satisfaction in this job I have asked, and my people gave me the mandate, because I served as a State House of Assembly member when there was a peace. I came to State House of Assembly in 2007. By then I can drive to my constituency in the midnight, like 12 a.m. I can move to my constituency alone without requiring any security escort. But as I'm speaking to you, there is no way I can go to my constituency without security. So if you look at the cost implication of me moving to my constituency to go and see my constituents, is another thing. And even this one, we have been subjected to all forms of attack, directly or indirectly. Mines, ambush by Boko Haram insurgents. Sometimes, in fact, even the last time I went to my constituency, we were attacked between Gwoza and Limankara. It was God that saved us, and we passed that particular attack without any casualty. But we were attacked actually. There was a gunshot everywhere. So, in fact, for me, I know how difficult it is to represent my people today, even though my job is simple. My job is to represent people, to come out in the plenary and tell the whole world, as well as the government, the situation of my people, and solicit for support from the government.
And how do you respond to people who are listening to this conversation, and who have, over the years, thought that the National Assembly has lost its ability to bite effectively when it comes to government direction, because you have not only the power of legislation but power of oversight?
Yes.
Right? And Nigerians simply think you could be doing more as lawmakers, as legislators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
You see, there is one problem that Nigerians fail to understand. We are still in a nascent democracy. If you look at what is happening today in America, even in the parliament, there are some level of compromises, despite there are more than 200 years of democracy. We are only less than 30 years of uninterrupted democracy, so you don't expect us to be perfect. That is the truth of the matter. We are doing our best as members of the parliament, and the way people insinuate that we are robust, I don't think we are. All we are trying to do is to be on the same page with the government, particularly in the interest of the public. If you observe, there are some legislations that came from government and we rejected them. Some of them are not only rejecting, we can accept them, but we are going to make amendment where necessary in order to sue the interests of our constituents. So the issue of us compromising, I don't think people are not economical with the truth. The truth of the matter is we are working, and I know what we are doing. Even today, there was a motion of matter of urgent public importance that was moved by the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Benjamin Okezi-Kalu, on the status of Nigeria as one of the CPC, that is countries of particular concern, as raised by the United States of America. We deliberated on that. We established committee immediately that can confront that particular situation. And as I'm speaking to you, the chairman Foreign Affairs Committee have started collecting passports that we are going to visit US to confront them on this matter, that Nigeria deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Right, and speaking about that, because that has also become a talking point, a hot topic.
Yes.
Not just here in Nigeria, but on the international stage, right?
Yes.
You represent a federal constituency that is a mixed bag
Yes.
of Muslims and Christians.
Yes.
And the Chibok incident in 2014 put Nigeria on the map,
Yes.
on the global map,
Yes.
in such a very negative light. Give me an understanding of when you hear accusations made in line with arguments that are making a case for alleged Christian genocide.
Yes.
As someone who represents Muslims and Christians in your constituency,
Yes.
how true are some of these allegations, and what is your understanding of the best way to tell the facts without mincing words?
Yes, at the very beginning of Boko Haram insurgents, it looks like Boko Haram attacked only Christians in Borno. In fact, to start with, at the very beginning, they attacked only the security men. By then, all other population are relaxed, feeling that they are not their targets are the military. So they kept on expanding to the extent that they cannot differentiate who is a Muslim, who is a Christian. Anybody that is not part of them is their target, they can kill you. They attacked mosques, they equally attacked churches. But at certain time, especially in my constituency, their attack was only in churches. And by them, some Muslims thought their target was only Christians. And later on, before you realize what is happening, they started attacking mosques. They will go with explosives in a mosque. If people are praying, they will ignite that particular explosive and kill everybody in that particular mosque. That was an attack on mosque. But at the very beginning, actually, it looks like Boko Haram is attacking Christians, and they have every reason to say that by then. But later on, even the Christians realize that Boko Haram spare nobody. In as much as you are not part of them, you are a target. As I'm speaking to you now, if Boko Haram can come here, he will not ask whether I'm a Muslim, or he will not ask whether you are a Christian. He can kill us. For him, we are not part of them, and we deserve to be killed.
And what about the politicization of the conversation, as well as the political elements involved in the insurgency itself? Because there's this concern that in the Northwest, when we talk about banditry, there are certain political figures, including even members of the traditional council, that have been fingered as being complicit in it. Do you share some of the concerns that people have, that there are politicians who are exploiting, or even members of the armed forces who are exploiting this Boko Haram insurgency for their own personal gain?
Now, to be fair to you, there is no way you can operate in a society where you don't have bad eggs. There are some people that can go out of the equation, whether you like it or not. Some people are wicked. As I'm speaking to you, a lot of people are providing information to Boko Haram. Despite if Boko Haram came to attack that particular community, they would be one of the victims. But still they provide information to Boko Haram members in the village, so in the bush. So this is a typical example for you to understand that, yes, some people conspired because a war economy has been created right from the formation or right from grassroots upward and vice versa. There are people that are benefiting from this and they don't want it to finish. So sometimes you know these people, you have this kind of people. The only thing is for the military to take some necessary action on them in order to stop them. But definitely we have them. Whether you like it or not, you have them. In fact, there are people that are even logistics suppliers of Boko Haram. They supply food and non-food items to Boko Haram. And still, whenever Boko Haram is going to attack the community, they will be equally a victim.
Right. And let's talk about the humanitarian crisis that we're dealing with here.
Yes.
I mean, Borno State being the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency is obviously the main focus of the conversation when it comes to efforts, when it comes to contributions, as well as a concentration of some of the activities of not just domestic but international donor agencies. Talk to me about what the situation is like across some of your constituents. When it comes to basic services like healthcare, like education, for instance, what is the situation like?
Yes, on the part of health, we have Doctors Without Borders, they call them MSF, and other medical NGOs, INGOs, and some UN agencies in my constituency. And on the part of other interventions like food and non-food items, there is actually a serious what we call UN fatigue. A lot of these NGOs, INGOs, and UN agencies have been withdrawing their support or reducing their level of intervention. As I'm speaking to you, people have started to cultivate the habit of insisting to go back to farms because some of these agencies like WFP have reduced drastically their supplies to
so food is running
population. Yes, food is running out. But this is normal, we know. Definitely there will be a time when they will even close. Now they use vendors to share food.
And let's talk about the resolutions from the House, from the Nigerian Senate. Oftentimes we've seen government agencies, parastatals, ignore some of these resolutions.
Yes.
I mean, we just talked about the Senate's resolution for deployment of military troops in so many areas.
Yes.
You're calling for one.
Yes.
I'm sure many other members whose constituencies have been impacted have also made similar demands.
Yes.
What is the rate of compliance like, and how optimistic are you that your plea will be received, will receive the positive consideration that you hope it would?
No, it's 50-50. It's 50-50.
So it may happen,
it may happen, it may not happen. Right. Because our responsibility is to inform the government and follow up. And it's not our responsibility to compel, if I can put it this way, the executive to implement. Our own is just to advise as part of our constitutional mandate. And Section 88 and 89 of the Nigerian Constitution give us the power to oversight what they are doing. So in the process, we have to do the follow-up for that to be implemented. And sometimes, to be fair to them, they will be overstretched. If they are overstretched, you should understand there's no way they can be everywhere. And there are a lot of security issues in the country, across the north, the south, the east, and everywhere you go, there are issues of insecurity. So it's 50-50, but our concern is let them put border communities as priority. That's the most important thing, because by the time your border is secured, you will have relief in the country. But if your border is not secured, what you are doing is more or less nonsense, if I can put it that way. Because the more you are dealing with insecurity internally, if people are still have the access to your country, so you are still in trouble.
Let's talk about harnessing political leverage, because the Northeast right now is in a somewhat favorable position. The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, is from Borno State, former governor of the state. The National Security Advisor is from Adamawa State. And for obvious reasons, a lot of people think that these are people who are close to power, who can make things happen.
Yes.
How are you exploring those options to facilitate your plea?
Yes, in addition to these two you have mentioned, even the Minister of Defense, the two Ministers of Defense are Northerners. And talking about Northeast, you should understand that the National Security Advisor is for the country, not for the Northeast.
I'm saying he'll obviously have some sort of sentimental attachment to his region. I'm not saying that he'll be biased, but there is something there.
The man Ribado I know is a Nigerian and will be the last person that can be sentimental on a particular region alone. If something that affects Northeast, he can act. And if something happened in Northwest or North Central or Southeast or Southwest or South-South, he will definitely act. The same thing Vice President is not the Vice President of the Northeast. It's a Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we don't expect, there is nothing wrong if they can use their influence to do something to their region. But there is everything wrong if they can restrict themselves to their region alone as nationalists. I hope you understand.
No, I do get the point.
As I'm telling you, I know them because I work with Vice President for the past 12 years. I know him. He will be the last person that simply because he is from Northeast, he will deny other parts of the country his presence and leverage on Northeast alone.
All right, our time is up, but on a scale of 1 to 10,
yes,
how confident are you that your prayers will be answered, spiritually and operationally?
Now I'm confident because with God everything is possible. Because our first prayer is to God to bring peace to our constituency and to our region and to our country at large, and with God everything is possible. And alternatively, the military are listening and they know what is happening. It's not affecting only the civilians, it's equally affecting them because they need to beef up security in those areas. If not, all their camps will be run down by the Boko Haram insurgents.
Hon Jaha Usman, thank you so much for the analysis. I appreciate you very much for stopping by.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for your time. All right. That is it for our show tonight. Thank you, Moskala, for joining us in Daily Politics. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 p.m. exclusive as always on Trust TV. Until next time, I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time. We'll see you soon.